Hi, it's Sarah Jane here from Natural Heating, and I am going to test another new stove we've got in today, pre-bringing it into the shop to see what we think of it. I try and burn everything, all the different models that we have in here, and see what they're like before we bring them in, because basically if I don't like it, it doesn't come in here, and if I really don't like it, you are never going to see a review because it's not good enough in the first place to warrant it. I was quite surprised at this little stove. It's one that I would have just kind of skipped on past and probably not looked at, because there's too many others that fill that kind of black box space with big window and white glass, and there's only so many you can have in a showroom, and I've got about 90 different models in here already. So why did I pick this one to have a go at? Well, it's got some rather unusual USPs. So let's have a look and see what she can do. So this stove is called the Ekol Edge. It's a 5 kilowatt stove, nominal, that does 3 to 7 kilowatt heat output. It's not got a leg, it's low to the ground, it's about 550-ish millimetres high, and it's a decent width. It's got a nice big glass on it and a tapered firebox on the inside, so it gives you a bigger, wider screen and a smaller box, which is no doubt how they've managed to keep it a 5 kilowatt rating. It's got plenty of deep enough ash retention in the inside, which is actually very nice. There's a single air control, which does your primary, tertiary and secondary air at the bottom and slides back and forward. So this is just a cast front piece, and a cast iron door, but it's basically a steel-bodied stove that is fully vermiculite lined, and the baffles come out very easily in the inside. So what's so special? Well, it doesn't tell you in the book, and it's something that I would have so easy have overlooked. So if you see here, output range 3 to 7 kilowatt. It's got a good high efficiency rating of 80.8, DEFRA exempt for smokeless zone, top and rear outlet with optional direct air. Everything you kind of like to see, but there's so many others like this. So what makes it so spectacularly different? Well, I'm going to tell you. The difference is that this stove here can go just 100 millimetres, which is not very much at all, 4 inches, away from combustible materials. So if you want that wooden surround on your fireplace opening that your fitter says that you can't have, with this one you can. And it'll go 50 millimetres. 50 millimetres is only 2 inches off the back from combustible walling. Really? Well, so it says. Yep, here you go. Minimum distance to combustibles on the back, 50mm with heat shields and 50mm without. Minimum distance to combustibles, 100mm with heat shields, 100mm without. Well, what does that mean? Well, here's your heat shield. It's on the back to help diffuse the heat off the wall. And there are these little heat shields that hook on the side. I've probably not put this one on quite right because I've actually had them off already, but they literally just, I haven't put it on right. Hooks on these cap head screws on the inside, just on here. So these actually just lift off. I can't see why you'd want to take them off. I really don't, because it looks nice with them on. And that's just going to help diffuse the heat out the front into the room more. Now, I'll take 2 seconds to put this back on, and then I'll be back to you in just a tick. Right, so I've put that side panel back on that I took off earlier to have a good look at it, because I like taking things to bits. You're gonna know how they go back together. The other thing that's quite clever on this is the door handle. Funny looking thing, isn't it? But this is an extra catch, so when you light the fire, rather than just leave the door open, because you should be leaving it open for the first few minutes, partially open, you can put it on the first latch, which leaves it, what can you see? Leaves it partially ajar while your fire's heating up. And then once you're up to temperature, you fully lock the door. There's quite a firm latch on this. You need quite a lot of pressure in your wrist, but at least it's a lever handle. So if you've got bad hands, I would try it out first because it is a firm leverage. It needs a fair bit of push. That said, it's a decent handle and it's offset to the side. So as long as you've got enough strength in your wrists, there's no twisting and your hand isn't too near the glass. I quite like the offset curve on this handle, I have to say. I don't think there's a base option for it. It's supposedly, well, it is sort of on the leg. The good side could be that there's no dust and dirt and stuff can get underneath the front of it. But to make it a bit more traditional stove looking, I'd like to see an option for a raised leg or a base you can drop it onto. I guess you could put it on a log store. That's more for freestanding though, isn't it, than inside a fireplace opening. So let's just put a kindling fire in and see what she does. So it's got a nice big wide fire box in here. These are small 10-inch split logs for lighting. So as you can see, you can easily get up to about a 13-inch long log length in there. It is a decent sized firebox. My kindling is cut ridiculously long today. That was probably me. Before, I do cut kindling a bit excessive sometimes. Anyway, typical Jenga pile, one fire lighter and some more kindling on top. And we'll get our blue torch, which is behind us. Because can't do matches with one hand. And see what she does. So, let's have the door slightly ajar and on the first catch. And let her have a bit of a warm up. Now it does have a really nice big glass on here. That glass has got to be, we'll see if I'm right, my finger span is about 6 inches from finger to thumb, so that's my tape measure. So I'm going to say we've got about 18 inches, about 450 ml of visible glass. I'm not far out. The brochure actually says it's 414, so my tape measure isn't too far out. But yeah, good size unit, 574 millimetre total width, and 393 millimetre depth. Now, while that's getting started, you can see the direct air box does stick out the back of this. So, although it needs 50 millimetre clearance of combustibles, unless you're attaching the direct air to that, I would say you're going to need more. So it could go 50 mil to combustibles as long as you're connecting the direct air. If not, I'd say you're probably going to have to go more like about 100 mil to give it adequate clearance off the back. It's a 5-inch flue collar, top and rear. It's quite a nice looking stove. So we'll give her a little while to heat up and I'll come back to you shortly. Alrighty, so it is taking quite nicely. And I'm going to put another little bit on top and still put it on the catch for a little bit longer, just till it catches my log. This stove has a high firebox on the inside because your fuel sits low. Your fuel bed is sitting here because there's no grate, and this is your ash retention bar at the front. This isn't hot yet because the heat is up here. It'll catch up just shortly, especially when I shut the door. Because of the height in the inside firebox, it really does mean I'm starting to feel the heat, but it's slow coming out front because of the amount of height. Just give it enough boost, give it enough time to warm that firebox and start warming that chimney. Because a stove that's fully vermiculite lined like that, with a lot of height in the inside, just takes that little bit more pressure and heat up time to push the cold air up the chimney. So my logs look like they're starting to take, and the bottom ones in the inside, you can see, are taking nicely. I never shut the door until the bottom logs are actually catching fire, not just the kindling. So we'll shut the door entirely now. And that's topping it up a bit. Now, to me, this is too soon to shut the door, because my chimney's still cold. Do you see the condensate there forming in the inside? That's just, this flue hasn't been lit for about a fortnight. There's still cold air in there. That firebox isn't warm enough. So by shutting the door now and letting the condensate form in the inside, the smoke residue is just going to stick to the glass. It's just too soon. I need to give that a minute or two more to warm the inside of that firebox properly and get it pulling away nicely and dry off all the condensate. Now I can feel the heat coming through here, but there's no heat coming through there. And you can actually see the condensate sitting on the top of that bar. It's just because it's cold. It's not wet wood. The wood is lovely and dry. Kindling's lovely and dry. Fire is taking nicely. It's just cold flu. It's cold flu syndrome. And if I shut that door too quick before that flue and chimney are heating up properly, then it's just going to smoke back and put my fire out. This chimney is prone to that. It's not what you would fit in a domestic setting at all. It's done as a test rig, so anything that is going to be difficult or not easy to run or misbehave will misbehave on here. So I know that if I like it and it runs nicely, it won't give you any problems either. So as you can see, that fire's taking quite nicely now. It's going to start going black in the inside, and that black in the inside is just because it's cold and coming up to heat. And the baffle will probably start getting a bit black too, which is just carbon as it heats up. And in a few minutes, that will then clear and come back to being all nice and cream in the inside. There you go, you'll see it starting to, oops daisy, I'm not holding that very well. You see it starting to blacken at the back because it's slowing down a bit and we're not fully heated up yet. So rather than video the whole burn, because you don't need to see all of that, I'm going to let it heat up and come back in a few minutes. Okay, well the little edge, Ekol Edge, is now nicely up to temperature and it's nice and clean. I think my camera screen is a bit grubby though because it looks a bit hazy. It's not hazy, it's lovely and bright and clean. I'll flip you around and you'll see better the other way. Well, it's burning lovely and bright and it really is chucking out a good amount of heat out the front. There's not very much in there at all. There was a decent kindling fire and then I've burnt 2 small bits of kiln dried birch in there just to see what it does. There's quite a lot of heat coming off, a reasonable amount of heat coming off the front, bucket loads of heat coming out. There's a reasonable amount of heat coming out the top. I don't think I want to put my hand on there. There's bucket loads of heat coming out the front. The air is still fully open. Now this stove's probably been maybe about 40 minutes since I've lit it. It's warm to the touch, but warm to the touch. I wouldn't say that's hot, would you? My hand wouldn't still be on it if it was. It's cold down there, warm up there, not even as hot as a hot radiator. Probably the temperature my hair is after I've put the hair straighteners on it, which isn't crazy. That's why it's frizzy, but there it goes, not that bad. I'm just playing. The back, stone cold, totally stone cold. Well, there's more heat in that screw coming from the back of the stove through the diffuser plate than there is in the plate. It is cold. You could put a baby's hand on that. Not that I would suggest that you would. There's no heat there. There's just no heat there on the back. So 50ml from combustibles, no problem. I'll check that again in a bit later. Getting hotish on the top. Not crazy. I wouldn't be banging my hand off it if it wasn't. We'll give it a bit longer and see what she does. But stone cold on that deflector plate on the back. Warmish on the sides. Same on that side. That's obviously not hot. Let's put another bit of kiln dried log in there and see what she does. Just so we've got some more fire view. The handle is currently cold. It says it should get hot. I can't see it getting hot. The bottom of the door is cold. The bottom of the door is cold because it is below the height of the log retainer. The bottom air control lever is currently cold. All right, okay. It's got a way to go. We'll try it for a bit longer. Yeah, there's just no heat in there. No heat in that handle at all. No issues with spill, but it's up to temperature. Now, give it a bash. That's chunky dead ember. That's a decent reload point. If you wait till the inside is too low, then there won't be enough ember to keep your fire going. So we want a good bed of chunky dead ember. If you've got a good bed of chunky dead ember, one log should take nicely. If you don't have a nice bed of chunky red ember, you really need two, because as Vincent Thurgood told me recently, who was a lovely guy that came in to visit in the shop, he had a really nice, really quite funny but nice saying, logs are like lovers, it takes two to make a hot bed, so you need two to get good hot embers, then you can burn one log. But if there's no or little hot embers left, you need two logs to rebuild that back up again. And he's right, totally right. And it's one of these things that I don't think people would forget. Now, what's shining on the floor? It's just a reflection on the floor with the glass. It looks like it's something funny down there, but it's actually just the review of the fire. So we are zoomed out. Alrighty, so full flame, took off like lightning. It's on full air. Let's just reduce the air down to the bottom and see what she does. Given that's a fresh log, that's good reactivity. 5 to 10 seconds to burn the air off in the firebox. Combusting off at the top. Burning nicely, stabilising well. You can see the tertiary air intake kicking in nicely at the back. And at the moment, this has got a DEFRA stop in, by the way, but at the moment that is more than adequate air for the burn. It's burning beautifully. Not low, but then it is a fresh log, and that firebox was bloody hot in there. My face is nicely red and warm, as you'll probably see in a minute. There is a lot of control on here. You can see it building as it's pulling air back in, and I've opened it back up. Good God, it's kicking heat out the front. I mean, seriously, I think my face is going to melt. I'm sitting maybe about 2 foot away from the front of it, but Jesus, that heat is phenomenal. Too much, obviously, far too much. I'm turn it right down to minimum, actually, because my hands are going to go on fire. This distance, the heat off the front is just crazy. There's a lot of heat at the minute. So one log, lowest air setting, let it fill back. But the heat through the glass is what is hot. It's really convecting the heat out and pushing the heat out into the room, because that's warm on the sides, but not stupid. But the heat out the front is superb. And it's now toning down to a nice burn rate. Handle is absolutely stone cold. I should really have a thermometer in here. There's no heat in that handle. There just isn't. There's no heat in there. There's not even any heat in the bottom of the door. All the heat is from here up. Yeah, I can feel it getting hot here. But this bit is currently cool. I can't see that air control getting hot or that handle getting hot, regardless of the fact the manual tells you, oh, I'll get hot. It's quite an interesting little burner, and I do like it. I just wish they do a little raised leg platform for it, and I'm actually going to ask and find out, because I think it would be a lot more popular with a leg on it. A little drop raised leg. I know it's got a leg, and some people will really like that boxy look. But I'd like to see a foot on it, just a little raised bit of the hearth. But, you know, the temperature and the hearth in the front is not vast, because the heat starts here. The heat really is phenomenal at that level. Down here, I can put my hands in front of it, no issue. So it's not going to be one of those stoves that gets known for cracking hearts and projecting heat out front too much. That's fine. But the heat from there, God, I can't even hold my hand there. It's so hot at that height. But at floor level, no heat to the hearth at all. That's nice. That's really nice. Heat from here, 3-4 inches off the hearth. Whew. So, yeah, I think it would be safe enough with carpets and things in front of it, which some stoves that are very low to the floor don't do well with at all, because, you know, they just project too much heat for too close to the floor. This is projecting the heat straight out front. My hands are filthy now, but it's off that hearth. They project the heat nicely out the front. Wait till you see the colour of my face. I bet you I look like a big... I look like I've been on holiday in the sunshine, and I've not, because I don't really go anywhere. I just sit in here and play fire. I am roasting. Look at the colour of my face and my hands. I'm absolutely banging. And I don't know, I wasn't actually expecting much of this, but I'm really rather impressed. We'll wait to see what it's like after 2 or 3 burns through of logs. It reckons that you shouldn't burn any more than 1.4 kilos of wood an hour. Now, most 5 kilowatt stoves should only be burning 1 to 1.5 kilos of wood an hour. Do you know how much that is? That's like 1 to 1.5 bags of sugar. That doesn't mean put lots and lots of logs in your fire. It means you want hardly any logs in your fire. Do you know what a log weighs? A dry log, that is. Well, let's have a look. All right, so let's look at log weights. Now, the average 5 kilowatt stove like this, 5 kilowatt nominal stove, should only be burning 1 to 1.5 kilos of wood an hour. And one of my pet hates is these people that pile loads and loads and loads of wood into stoves. If you thought of them as logs, as £5 notes, you wouldn't burn so many. Why are you burning so many logs? Let it do its job. If it's giving you enough heat, you're just making yourself too hot if you put far too many logs in it. Right, okay, so my little scales here have up to 50 kilos weight limit, and it goes up in 2 grand increments. All right, so let's see what they weigh. Now, I've got a bag of kiln dried birch that I actually quite like to use for testing stoves because it's kiln dried, it's birch, it burns quite quick but not too quick. It's a good entity. Now, this log is about 4-inch diameter, and I would say about 10-inch length. So just to be sure, let's measure it with a tape measure. So overall, we are looking at just over 9 inches length. If you measure it from the fact that it's lower on one side than the other. Alright, so this log is just over 9 inches at its shortest, but it's kind of cut on the skew. So from the longest point, if it was straight, we're looking about 10 inches. So I'd still classify that as a 10-inch split, because it would have been if somebody cut it straight. And I'm guessing it's about 4-inch diameter. It's not easy to do this with one hand and hold the phone. I'm making a bit of a mess. Yeah, 4-inch diameter. I'm left-handed, so the tape measure's upside down. I want me to try and do it the right way round. There we go. 4-inch diameter. So my scales are set to 0. I'm going to put that on scale. What do you reckon it is? I'm going to say, well, I've got a tape measure too. Let's put that down. I'm going to say that's going to be virgin on a kilo. Not far off it. So this one log is 936 grams. So that one log in a 5 kilowatt burner, you should be burning up to 1.5 of those an hour. That's all. So what else have we got in? Ooh, that's a big funny bit, isn't it? Right, what does that one weigh? 1.158. This is a little diddy one, probably about 2 inches square. 346. that's another big roundish one on there, about 4-inch diameter, so probably another kilo lug. So we should be about 1.5 kilos between those two. Not far off it. Not far off it. So at 1 to 1.5 kilos of wood an hour, it's impossible trying to do this on your own with one hand. But that is not a lot of fuel. Not a lot at all. See what else we can do. This one is probably about 5-inch wide and about 1.5 inches deep. 758. So 2 of these. That one's about right. 572 plus this one, just over 1.3. So when this singular beech log burns out, I'm not going to have a vast amount of hot red ember in there. So given 1.4 kilos should be the maximum weight limit per load, and this is on minimal air, but burning beautifully clean with a nice rolling flame. Wouldn't actually want it burning any higher than that. Is it on minimum air? Yes, it is on minimum air with the DEFRA stopping. That is just burning lovely. Plenty hot enough. Nice rolling flame, not too fast, not too slow, enough to keep the whole thing clean. Handle's still stone cold. When that one burns out, we're going to need to develop a bit more red ember base probably. I'm going to put those 2 logs in. These 2 here and see what happens. All right, so I've been sitting watching that log, as you do, and it's just broken up. So we've got a good chunky bed of red ember. So I'm just going to open the air, which the slider's still cold. The bottom of the door bit is getting hot now. This is getting hot. Not crazy hot, but it's getting hot. The air slider is cold, maybe slight warmth to it, not much. The door handle is not even slightly warm, not even remotely slightly warm. The shaft of it is getting warm, but that's not exactly hot, is it? No, I wouldn't say so. I would call that a cool handle, and it's a solid handle with that. And the offsetting of it obviously works well. So I'm just opening the door, giving it a few seconds to pull away. And this is perfect reload point for putting the logs in. What we're going to do now is put in these 2, which was just over 1.3 kilos, and it does say maximum of 1.5 kilos, 1.4 kilos per load. I think it was 1.4. Pretty sure it was 1.4. It's under that anyway. So pulling away nicely, catching right quick. As soon as it's caught all nicely, I will turn it right back down to where it was before, because it seems to be quite happy running on low air and staying clean on a soft rolling burn. So as soon as she's catching, we will stabilise her and then see how long it goes. So the time is now, so you can see I am not cheating, at 10:15, and it's not the 31st, it's the 2nd of February, I think. 1st of February, 2nd of February, something like that. 2nd of February, I'm pretty sure. Nice and quick, belting the heat out, burning clean. Let's just stabilise it to a soft burn. That is too low yet, it's not caught enough. Give it a touch more just to catch. I'm being impatient just to get on. I'm going to go and make a cup of tea in a minute and actually do some emails and then come back to it, because I really shouldn't just sit in front of the fire all night. I'm going to cook. There we go, plenty of heat in there. Those 2 logs in there. It's catching nicely on the surface. Now it's properly catching. Now we can turn her down. So I'll turn her down to there, let her stabilise and see what she does. Back soon. Right, that's what's left of those 2 pieces of wood at just slightly above minimal air. There's a fair bit left, but if I give that a good tap, it's going to go to chunky red ember. Now, how long have we been burning that for? What can you see from my watch? It's reflections. There we go, 10 past 11, so 55 minutes. And I'd say there's probably a good 10 or 15 minutes burn left in that if I don't give it a good poke. And typically I wouldn't poke it, but if you want a hot red ember, you'll see that there's not a lot left in the bottom. But if I give it a poke, we can turn it into red ember. So what I'm actually going to do, you'd normally just give it a done and then put another log in if it breaks up. Now you'll see I'm barely going to touch this and it's going to break up. Oh, there's a bit more left in that than I thought. But that would be a good reload point because there's a little bit of flame and a good chunky red ember base. But I would say we've probably got about another 10 minutes or so out of that, and I am not going to put any more logs in at this point. I'm just going to let it burn out, see what it does on the glass, and see how much longer we get out of it. I'm going to say another 10 minutes or so, maybe 15. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed the video of the Ekol Edge, which I have to say I think is here to stay and will be getting added to my collection here at Natural Heating. I'm just going to show you last final few moments if you're not bored enough already. So here you go, that's what's left in there. And we are now at 25 past 11. The sides are hot, but not that hot that I can't keep my hand on it. So no problem at all, close to combustibles. No problem. It does say 100 millimeters, just so you know. The back of the stove, bloody hell, is stone cold. I've never, ever felt a stove ever so cold on the back. It's just not hot. The air control, warm, mildly warm. Now this has been burning now for a good 3 hours. Air control's cold. Bottom of the door is getting hot, but not crazy hot. Put it this way, I wouldn't be putting my hand on it if that was stupidly hot, would I? It's going to be hot from here up. I'm not going to try that. But honestly, the air control is cold. The handle is cold. Totally cold. Crack the door. Give it a few seconds to pull that away. Open slowly. And this has been burning that 1.35 kilos of logs for about an hour and a half. Heading towards an hour and a half, an hour and 20 minutes. Decent chunky red ember. Still another 15 minutes or so in there, but you don't want to really be reloading any less than that point, because any less than that point, you're not going to get a good flare up and it won't take. You'll struggle to get your fire going again. I'm just going to let her burn out. The glass is nice and clean. There's very little tarnishing on that glass. We might get a little bit more as it goes stone cold, but that will wipe off very easy with a damp cloth in the morning before it would be relit. Still belting out heat out the front. Cracking little fire. Thanks for watching.